Good morning, everyone. I'm Raj, the organizer of this program. Along with my fellow organizer Arjun, we will be running today's session. Firstly, I thank the advisors and speakers of this session who helped us in shaping out this program. Thank you all for taking the time to join this virtual conference. Today, amongst us, we have several COVID positive people and their caregivers. We request you to stay till the end of the discussion. 19 experts who are joining us today. Today's session will have 4 speeches and an open question and answer session towards the end of the program. The purpose of the seminar is for the free exchange of ideas and commentary regarding COVID-19 for information purposes only and not for medical treatment. We are not associated with any organization, and this seminar is not produced for any direct or indirect benefits. Furthermore, this session has been made available for general information purposes only. We do not make any representation or warranties with respect to the accuracy, applicability, fitness, or completeness of the content. You would notice that all the participants are placed on mute to begin with. This is only to avoid any or the raise hand button to post your questions. Zoom's raise hand feature literally allows you to raise your hand to post questions. At the bottom of the screen, you will see the participants button. Clicking on this will open the participants panel. Right? You will find the raise hand button at the bottom of the participants panel. Every time a hand is raised, we will unmute the participant, allowing them to post their questions. If your call drops due to any network-related issues, you can join us back using the same meeting link. This session is best viewed in the speaker view mode. Hence, I request all the participants to click on this by hovering your cursor on top of the screen, and you will see the speaker view button. Selecting this will automatically highlight the video of the expert who is speaking. Now, today's session will have 4 presentations. Debunking some of the myths. Second one is clarity on isolation, recovery, and nutrition. What is expected? The third is COVID-19 complications and what is needed to do. The fourth session will be mental health and well-being during COVID-19 isolation. Okay. I'm thrilled to meet you all and listen to the experts speak. And I'm also equally thrilled to invite the first speaker, which is Dr. Diego Edwin, who's a clinical microbiologist and assistant professor at the Trichy SRM Medical College. His area of expertise is clinical microbiology and infection control. During this pandemic, Dr. Diego thinks knowledge is the most precious asset for both the public and also the medical community as well. He's on a mission to spread maximum awareness among the public and also help the medical community by updating them with genuine and verified information about microbiology and infection control. Dr. Diego, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very, very happy to be a part of this program. I'm glad that I'm in a space where I can meet people and talk to them and give them awareness about this pandemic and get rid of all the panic and unnecessary fear surrounding this virus and this disease. So I've been asked to speak about the myths surrounding COVID-19 pandemic. So let me talk about, first let me address the issues about the myths about the virus itself. Then we'll talk about the transmission of the virus. Then we'll talk about the Then I'll address issues about the myths surrounding treatment of COVID-19 and etc. So let's talk about the virus first. So we know that this virus came from China. This is a result of human-animal interaction. Probably it came from bats or some animals, and that is that. There is no scientific proof or any kind of solid evidence to say that this was genetically engineered or this is a product of a bio war. This is the tool of a bio war. there is no scientific proof or evidence to say that it is a part of a bio-war. It looks like, as of now, with the data we have and the information we have, it does look like a result of a human-animal interaction and human-animal wild interaction. So and it does not spread through 5G. And last year, in the first wave, we all thought that the maximum amount of transmission takes place through hands. That is, if you touch a contaminated surface where the virus is, and you touch that hand with the nose, touch that hand on your nose or eyes or mouth, then you get infected. And that is the maximum amount of transmission. That's how it occurs. But that's not the truth. Yes, fomite transmission or a transmission through hands does occur, but it does not penetrate the skin. Remember one thing very well. You can even hold coronavirus on your hand like this. It will not enter your skin. It can only enter your body through your mouth or your nose. Touch your contaminated hand, your eyes or nose or mouth, it will not enter your body. So that's only minimal. Only around 5 to 10% maybe will be transmitted through fomites or through hands. And so from what we have learned in the past year, it is airborne. When I say airborne, you must not mistake that airborne means it can travel from Delhi to Mumbai and Mumbai to Goa and Goa to Chennai. No, it is not. It cannot fly like that. The only possibility that coronavirus can actually travel from one place to another is through human beings. When we say it is airborne, it just plainly means that when an infected person coughs or sneezes or talks loudly or sings or just plainly breathes without a mask, if that person is infected with COVID-19, this virus tends to float around in the air for a few minutes, especially in ill-ventilated areas, especially in crowded spaces. This virus seems to float around for a while, for a few minutes or so. And if an uninfected person is going to breathe that contaminated air, if he's going to breathe the contaminated air with virus, then definitely he is going to get infected. So this is what we have observed in the past 1 year. The number one place where transmission is highly occurring is crowded spaces, like very crowded spaces like markets or public transports or party halls or theaters or restaurants where there is a huge crowd with absolutely no ventilation or very poor ventilation. That is when maximum transmission occurs. And that is why wearing mask is absolutely essential. You can double mask now. You need not wear an N95 mask. All you have to wear is a surgical mask or a good cloth layered mask, a thick cloth mask that you can wear along with the surgical mask, or you can use 2 cloth masks. And there is definitely no need to worry about whether this mask wearing can actually cause you any kind of hypoxia or less oxygen saturation in your body. No, there is no evidence to prove that mask wearing is difficult or it is going to reduce the amount of oxygen that enters your body. But of course, wearing N95 mask gives you a slight difficulty to breathe, but only medical people in the medical community have to be concerned about that. As public, as general members of the society, you need not be concerned about N95 because you don't need an N95 unless you're working inside a COVID ward or you're being exposed to COVID patient in a hospital ICU. You don't have to really wear N95. So this is about the transmission of COVID-19. So to put it in a nutshell about transmission, 80% of transmission occurs by airborne transmission, which can be very well avoided if you absolutely avoid crowds and wear mask all the time wherever there is human interaction. Always wear mask. And the number 2 is through fomite transmission or through hands, but it does not enter through the skin. It can only enter your body through your nose or your mouth. So that's it about transmission. And when it comes to talking about the severity of illness, the 85% of the people who are infected with COVID-19 recover very well without any kind of highlighted in the media, or any person who talks about this always only instills fear and panic in your mind. There is no need to panic. Of course, certain amount of fear is needed to keep yourself motivated to take all the precautions, to keep yourself motivated from avoiding the crowds, to motivate yourself to get vaccinated, as vaccination is absolutely essential and safe. And there is a lot of myths surrounding vaccination. please get yourself vaccinated. I've taken both the vaccines. All my family members have taken the vaccines. And absolutely, there is no side effects except a day or two fever and some body pain. Yes. So the severity of illness, 85% of people are actually healthy, who have a good immune system, who are very normal, who are not very having any kind of diabetes or hypertension or any kind of coexisting illness. Most of them recover without any trouble, automatically, without even any kind of treatment, they can recover very well. But there is one thing that we have to watch because of mutations of the coronavirus. Yes, mutations are not a myth, mutations are real. So compared to the first wave, we only saw that most of the older people are succumb to this virus. But in this wave, we are seeing younger people also who are dying to the virus, dying because of the virus. And we see younger people also getting the severe form of illness. But the percentage of death remains the same. It's only around 5 to 10% or maximum 15%. But it's only that the population that it occurs has actually changed a bit. Younger people are getting. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of calls in between. So, okay, let me continue. So, there is absolutely no need to panic, even if you get COVID-19. So, and there's one more thing that most of us don't know. If you, in case you get COVID-19, in spite of taking all the precautions, if you get COVID-19, you really don't have to panic, because even if you're diabetic, even if you have hypertension, even if you're very old, even if you have a very low immune system, of course, there is a risk for people who have a very low immunity. But if you take the right advice from doctor, if you approach the hospital early enough, you can be saved. And most of the time, severe illness can be treated easily, and you can come out of the COVID-19. There is only a small percentage of people who will die after getting infected with COVID-19, even after treatment. I repeat, there is only a very small percentage of people who will die with treatment. I mean, without yes, with treatment. So most of the people, almost 95% of the people, if you get treated at the right time, you will survive COVID-19, even if you're obese, even if you have a poor immune system, even if you have diabetes or hypertension or cancer or whatever illness you have. If you're treated at the right time, there's a good chance that you will survive. So there is absolutely no need of panic. Then, and another problem is that that we are commonly encountering in the OP or in the hospital is that people usually come to the hospital very late, because you have to know yourself. Or if you're young, if you're obese, obesity is also a huge risk. So if you're obese, always watch for even the smallest of symptoms, because COVID can present in with a variety of symptoms. A patient can have only fever. A patient can have fever with headache. A patient can have only cough. A patient can have only body pain, or a combination of all. So if you have any kind of symptom, always suspect that it is COVID, because now COVID is so widespread. If you have any symptom of infection, that is like fever or the following, always get yourself tested. That is the number one step. If you get yourself tested early, then you can proceed with other investigation. Then you can proceed with all the preventive aspects of making the avoiding the disease from getting severe. So that is absolutely essential. Okay. So following this, what Dr. Chandrasekhar, following my speech, will be explaining to you about how to keep the immune system well, how to give care to the COVID patients at home, and he'll be talking about the pulse oximeter. Pulse oximeter is a must-have right now in your family. If you have elders in your house, the pulse oximeter is a very must equipment that you must have. And after this, there is a lot of myths surrounding the treatment about coronavirus. Of course, the number one treatment for saving a patient with severe illness is oxygen. Yes, oxygen is not a myth. It is definitely needed. You have to give artificial oxygen to the patient for them to breathe, so that they can get better. To support them while they're recovering, while the lung is healing, it will take at least 3 to 4 days minimum. So the patient needs artificial oxygen. It is not a myth. It is definitely needed. And there is myth surrounding the drug called remdesivir. Yes, there is proof that remdesivir helps, but there is absolutely no need to think that without remdesivir, a patient will die. No, remdesivir is not a life-saving drug. I repeat, remdesivir is not a life-saving drug. So even without remdesivir, a patient can be saved with another kind of drug, and the name of the drug is corticosteroids. It is commonly known as steroids. And steroids are widely available in every other hospital. It's very easily available, and that is the only life-saving drug that which can actually, maybe it will help you recover faster, but there is absolutely no scientific proof that remdesivir will help. So there is no need to go ahead and sell or buy this remdesivir in black markets, or get it for a very higher price, or feel guilty or become depressed that you're not able to help your parents or your relatives or your friends, that you're not able to buy them remdesivir. So there is absolutely no need to panic about not being able to get remdesivir. It is not a life-saving drug. Okay. Then there's a lot of myths surrounding vaccination. There are plenty of vaccines in the market like Pfizer, Moderna, Sinovac, AstraZeneca, Covaxin. If I have to give you the politically right answer, every other vaccine is fine. Every other vaccine is fine. You can take any one of them. But if you have some kind of problems, that if you have a pre-existing condition where you are very allergic to any kind of medication, or if you have a severely suppressed immune system, it is always better to talk to a healthcare provider and discuss about what vaccine to get. Because there are some situations where you can choose this a certain vaccine instead of another. But most of, if you are a healthy individual, if you are normally healthy individual, yes, definitely you can take any kind of vaccine. Please vaccinate yourself. And there's one more thing. If you're vaccinated, it doesn't mean that you will not get COVID-19, because all the vaccine manufacturers say very clearly, even if you take vaccine, you will get COVID-19 and you will be able to transfer the disease to another person for a short while. But the only difference is you will not progress into severe illness. And if you have taken the vaccine, if your natural fate is to die because of COVID-19, and if you have taken the vaccine, you will not die. If your natural fate is to have a severe disease because of COVID-19, if you take vaccine, you will not progress to a severe illness. So please, please, please take vaccines. Yes, the transmission of infection is reduced vastly if you take vaccine. A normal person coughing and sneezing, he can, if an infected person coughs and sneezes, he is going to definitely transmit the infection to hundreds of others. But if he is vaccinated, he will not have any symptoms, and the level of transmission from this person to another will become very less. So that's it for my presentation. So that's it I have to say. I think my 10 minutes is over. And I'll take all questions, and I'll definitely answer all the questions at the end of this session. Thank you so much. The moderator can take over, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Diego. And participants can post your questions, and we will take this up during the question and answer session. Right. So, to present the next speech, we welcome Dr. and previous cardiologist, professor at PES Medical College, Bengaluru. He has done his MBBS and MD from Bangalore Medical College. He has also done his diabetology, cardiology from Newcastle University, Australia. His special interests are in food and water and to promote awareness of good health among people. Over to you, Dr. Chandrasekhar.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, you're on mute. So meanwhile, Dr. Chandrasekhar figure out the technical glitch. We can take the question that we have in the chat. So Dr. Diego, we have a question about what about the people who are going through chemo or radiation, and when can they get vaccinated?
Yes, they can get vaccinated immediately unless they're allergic to a previous dose of a vaccine or any kind of history of allergy towards vaccine. They are the ones who should take the vaccine first. They should be the first priority to take the vaccine. And if you still have doubts, you can always talk to a healthcare provider who is very close to you nearby, and you can definitely take the vaccine.
Okay, and what about the patients who have severe asthma and other breathing-related illness?
Yes, there is no contraindication. There is absolutely no contraindication. They can take the vaccine. The only contraindication for not taking vaccine is that if you have any kind of history of allergy towards drugs, even those kind of people can take vaccine after consultation and doing some panel of tests. Consult with your doctor, and if it's all clear, you can definitely take the vaccine.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Dr. Diego. I think.
I'm audible, sir, no? Sunny,
yes, sir, you're audible.
Sunny. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್. So I'm audible, sir?
Yes, sir.
My slides are clearly seen?
Yes, sir, it's visible. You can start your presentation.
Right. At the outset, I would like to thank Mr. Arvind Shekhar and other organizers for having given me an opportunity to speak. So, why we should this one? See, first thing what I would like to tell, don't get scared about coronavirus. Corona, you should not worry. First, fear psychosis should come down. See, now we are wearing mask, you are taking all inside. Who should take care of the coronavirus? Who should kill the coronavirus? Who should kill the coronavirus? There is one doctor inside your body. His name is internal doctor, immune system, resistance power. He should be strong. He is also made up of a cell called T cell and B cell. The basic structure of our body is cell. So that cell, if you make it strong, not only he will kill coronavirus, he will kill dengue virus, he will kill typhoid virus. So the need of the hour is to keep the internal doctor should be strong all 24/7. Can we purchase the internal doctor by money or in the hospital? Even if you are in the home isolation, your internal doctor should be good. If you get admitted, whether you are having oxygen bed, whether you are having in the ICU, your doctor should this one. So internal doctor cannot be purchased by giving money, only by food and water, which we take every day. That has got a lot of role in keeping your internal doctor strong. So it is the right time. You should know what type of food we should take, what type of water we should drink to keep this. See, our body is like a petrol vehicle. You should put petrol. One day petrol, one day diesel, one day kerosene. If you put, your doctor inside will get spoiled. So keeping the doctor is the strong is the need of the hour. So as Dr. Diego has already told, 85% of the people will not get any problem if they get corona, but 15% of the people where they got comorbidities like diabetes, BP, heart attack, dialysis, there the internal doctor is weak. If the virus goes inside to their body, it will take the upper hand. It will start, every seconds, it will start multiplying. And the immune system says, I cannot take the load. When it cannot take the load, the body will start suffering. So the doctor, so why we should take food? Why people say, I'm getting bored, I'm receiving TV, so many things. But the most two important things, why we should eat, the scientific reason is is because two things. One is for energy and another is for growth and repair. And this one, see, the energy comes from carbohydrate and fat, and the growth and repair, the produced antibodies, proteins, vitamins, minerals will come into the play. So what food contains, whatever you eat, whether you eat dosa, idli, vada, chicken biryani, mutton biryani, whatever you eat, the God has given something in the food with some good intention so that the body inside should work, the cell should work. The food contains only this much: carbohydrate, fat, protein, vitamins, fiber, minerals, and water. Extra, we are adding coloring agents, pesticides, and we are eating. Reason to give energy for ourselves, which comes from carbohydrate and fat, and repair, regenerate, and growth, and this one to produce the antibodies, we need more white proteins, vitamins, and minerals. So, see, the basic structure of our body is cell. Whether you take it heart, whether you take brain, or whatever it may be, immune system, the basic structure, this cell, this cell needs only one thing: 3 raw materials: good oxygen, good nutrition, and water. If you do this, the cell will do the function what God has told. If you give this raw material to your immune system, T cells and B cells, it says, I will wear bulletproof jacket and I will take AK-47 gun and I will do the work what God has told. I will produce antibodies. If I produce antibodies, no corona will survive. So keeping the cell healthy is the need of the hour. So if this cell is healthy, immune system is healthy. If the heart cells are healthy, no heart attack, no BP, everything. So the basic structure, keeping this cell in a good condition is important. If the cell is healthy, the whole body is healthy. So if you give the raw materials like this to the cell, it becomes an healthy cell. If you don't give the raw materials, it says, I will not work. So we cannot see our internal doctor. Internal doctor cannot be seen. So keeping them in a good condition to take care of the corona is very important. So we are supposed to eat the food in a balanced way, something excess, something deficient we are eating. And see, a good example, you are supposed to eat 2,200 calories, but unfortunately while seeing TV, instead of 3 vada, we'll take 6, 3 dosa, we'll take 6 dosa. Without our knowledge, we deficiency also will produce corona, obesity, diabetes, and all that. I'll give a good example. 2,200 calories you are supposed to eat, but we are eating nearly 4,000 without our knowledge. Extra will get deposited. All of us, we are becoming obese. So 70 kg man will become 90 or 100. God has told for 70 kg, I'll supply insulin. I'll ask the heart to pump. If you're overweight, if insulin is not sufficient, you'll get diabetes. Heart says, if I cannot pump, so excess will produce obesity and load on the heart. So this if there's a problem with the heart, they are more prone for corona problem, right? If they are diabetic, they are more for corona problem. So what is carbohydrate? This is called as sugar. There are 2 types of sugar: visible sugar, invisible sugar. Visible sugar will not fall from the sky into your plate. What is not visible in the sugar cane or maize or carrot will make it visible and give it to you. That is sugar. Invisible sugar is present in rice, ragi, dal, wheat, vada, chicken, everything. Even green chili contains sugar, bitter gourd contains sugar, pickle contains sugar. There is no food without sugar. Masala dosa contains 71.7% sugar, and people take 3 masala dosa and take sugarless coffee. I don't know whether to cry or laugh. Carbohydrate is very important for our energy purpose. God has told carbohydrate should get absorbed into the blood in a slow fashion. So if you take chocolate, in 2 minutes it will go. Fast food, gobi manchurian, mushroom manchurian, chow chow bath, which spoil our health, within half an hour it will go to the blood. And if you take unpolished rice, millets and all those things, it takes 2 hours to go. That is very important for our health. So next, so when you get up, early in the morning, your body needs 46 nutrients, but we eat this type of food. We Indians, we eat this type of food. If you come to know what is the invisible sugar present in this food, we are really astonished. See, the masala dosa contains 71.7%, chapati 66, idli 90.1%. We are under the impression we are not taking food, we are not taking sugar, but see the amount of sugar present in polished rice. See, if you take this type of food during Corona time and you get infected, your diabetes will not be under control. Internal doctor will not work properly. You are more prone for Corona, right? So next, fat. Why you should eat fat? Fat, everyone says it is for taste. No, oil will never give taste. If you are eating buttermilk rice, if you put salt, it will become tasty. If you put a pickle, it becomes still more tasty. If you put 1 cup of oil, it will not become tasty. So oil will never give. Vada, if you do vada, without putting salt, it is not tasty. Only 4 things in your food will make you tasty. Sodium chloride, it's salty taste. And citric acid, it's what you get in lemon. And papaverine, what you get. See, you take a green chili, keep it in your mouth. It will not make you spicy. Only if you start chewing, then only it becomes spicy. So oil is not there. So oil, there are oil contains what is visible oil, what is not visible in the groundnut or in the milk. We'll make it visible and give it to you. Oil contains 3 acids: saturated fatty acid, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated. A mixture of this is called as oil. So any oil which is rich in saturated fatty acid will become solid at room temperature. So what type of oil you should purchase, especially in this type way to keep the nutrition? Any oil which becomes solid at room temperature, don't eat too much because it is rich in saturated fatty acid and it will make your liver to stimulate and work more to produce more cholesterol. Any oil which is liquid at room temperature, it is good for your health. Next, I will tell only one sentence about cholesterol. What is cholesterol? People have got a very long, bad belief about cholesterol. See, without cholesterol, our body will not work. If you have got 0 cholesterol, we are going to die. But cholesterol is the raw material for steroid hormone, for cell membrane, for brain to work. There are 2 types of cholesterol. Inside cholesterol. Food, animal food. Plant food doesn't contain cholesterol. Sunflower oil, cholesterol free, you put on the bottle. Why you should put? God only has not given. Liver is the one which is the major organ which synthesizes cholesterol till we die. If you stimulate the liver to produce more cholesterol, to produce more bad cholesterol, what excessive oil which is solid at room temperature. If you take that type of oil, see, all your junk foods, your gobi manchuri, mushroom manchuri, all they are made up of palm oil, which becomes solid at room temperature. That is the reason of late the cholesterol level is very much more even in vegetarians. And second thing, tension is more. Third, exercise is less. Fourth is smoking. Don't take outside cholesterol, your cholesterol level will go on increasing. See, this is how we eat. So this is how we eat, and this type of eating, this junk food, it's spoiling our immune system, and the whole India is becoming obese. Dr. Diego was telling obesity, the fat is an enemy for it produces a lot of hormones which are injurious to which are opposite to our insulin. So that's the reason you should not build up fat mass, you should build up muscle mass. See? Next, protein. Protein is the second best nutrient for our body after water. Without protein, our body cannot survive. It is the raw material for our immune system to produce antibodies. It's very important for growth and repair. When you are hungry, scientifically, biochemically, nutritionally, your body is asking protein. Unfortunately, we Indians put a lot of carbohydrate. So protein is very much important. That's the reason people, when you are suffering from corona, when you are in home isolation, protein is the best nutrient you should take. See, there is enough reserve for carbohydrate and fat in your body. Even if you don't take carbohydrate and fat for many days, nothing will happen. But there is no reserve for protein. So if you don't take good amount of protein, your immune system says, I cannot work. So we should take class 1 100 grams will get utilized. One is soya protein, another is whey protein. What is present in the water of the curds? People throw the water and take the curd. That is wrong. Third is egg white. Fourth is milk casein protein. If you take 25 to 30 grams of this protein during home isolation or when you are in the hospital, your immune system will work beautifully and your complications will come down. So protein is very, very important. The regular protein, what we are taking, beef out of 100, only 92% will get utilized. Chicken out of 100, only 65. Fish out of 100, only 82. The pulses and dal, what vegetarians eat, only 42% is utilized. Remaining 58% is a waste. So that is the reason protein. So building up the muscle mass, protein is the only nutrient which builds up the muscle mass. If the muscle mass is more, it drinks cholesterol, it drinks sugar from your blood. If this only drinks sugar and cholesterol, free fatty acid in your blood, why you should become diabetic? So why you should become, why you should get high blood pressure? So protein is very, very important. And so in a balanced diet, you are supposed to take the carbohydrate 55 to 60%, fat should be 25 to 30%, protein should be 10 to 15%. This is what God has told. Of late, Indian diet is very rich in carbohydrate, more than 60%. If you take more than 60% carbohydrate, it gets converted into fat. Refined wheat flour, hotel food, party food, junk food, hotel food, marriage food, your gobi manchuri, mushroom manchuri, all your this one, they are very pizza, burger, they are rich in carbohydrate and it will make you to become this one, it will spoil your health. So that's the reason taking good food is very, very important when you have got a corona infection. So another thing is 30 grams of fiber you should eat. Every nutrient has got it. Biryani, you want basmati rice. More polish you give, fiber is thrown out. Outer layer of the rice is fiber and rich in protein, we'll throw it out. And you want soft chapati, big chapati, and we throw the outer layer of the wheat. If there is less fiber, there is rapid absorption of oil and sugar into your blood. Pancreas has to work more, you have to get more. So that's the reason when you have got in home isolation, if you take more carbohydrate, your pancreas has to work. Already you are suffering from corona. And if you make pancreas to still work more, you will land up in problems. So if you take good fiber, there is no rapid absorption of oil and sugar into your blood and pancreas will start laughing. So the outer layer of the wheat is very, very important, which we throw it out. So these are all rich in fibers. So this, if you take 1 kg wheat, 200 grams soya, 50 grams methi, 50 grams, 200 grams green gram. If you make it and make it a powder and eat rice. So this is millets. Next, most important, I'm going to tell now what is the role of water in corona. Very, very important. Everyone says, what is there in water? Water is the best nutrient for our body. I have treated many people in this one. With water, you will get 90% relief. See, what is, in olden days, we used to drink river water, flowing water, tap water. We never used to, when I was doing MBBS in 1980, in our Victoria Hospital, no diabetes, no BP, no, we used to drink tap water. See, the flowing water, when it flows in between the rocks, H2O will break into H plus, OH minus, it becomes micromolecular in nature, hexagonal in shape. See, each cell in our body, God has given a door. It is called cell door. Water should go into this. If the water goes inside, oxygen goes inside, and the nutrition goes. See, we know during corona, we give vitamin C, we give zinc tablets. What is the idea of giving it? To produce antibodies. Vitamin C, zinc, everything should go into the cell. For that, water is very, very important. The water, what you are drinking now, stagnant water, Bisleri water, how many years old, I don't know. The RO water, what Hema Malini tells, we give importance only to clarity and purity. Stagnant water is macromolecular in nature. So this is the type of water what God has told. We have spoiled the water to a maximum extent. So the water, if the water is micromolecular, water will enter, nutrition will enter. Very, very important. If the water enters, T cells and B cells will produce good amount of poisons are removed. The T cells will become healthy. See now, if this water, same water goes into your lung. See, in common man terms, in olden days, lung used to take bath. Heart used to take bath, brain used to take bath, eye used to take bath, no disease. If you take a good quality water, if you make the lungs to take bath, I am to tell you honestly, the stay in the hospital will come down. The people who are in the home isolation will never get complication, will not go to the hospital. So that is the reason water is very, very important. The present day water is macromolecular, it cannot enter, and oxygen cannot enter. Intracellular dehydration, hypoxia, and acidemia, toxins are not removed. Cell is unhealthy, immune system is not healthy, lung cells are not healthy. Coronavirus says, when you people are not fighting with me, I will take the upper hand and I will start damaging the lung. So you'll get Corat score 20 this one, pneumonia, and lung says, I will not work, oxygen saturation will come down. We look into the pulse oximeter, then we'll go and get admitted. So, 70% of our body is water. If you are weighing 70 kg, 49 liters is water. See, your skin, your heart, your lungs, if the quality of the water is good in your body, most of the problems in corona can bring down. See, we are nothing but a water drum. Our body, the quality of the water, what you have got, I'm telling you honestly, you can get lot of the problem we can. So keeping this immune system by taking good water and nutrition is needed. See, now there are so many technologies available now. See, the Japanese technology, they have studied all the top mountain flowing water. They convert 2020 becomes 1960-70 flowing water. What you get in Haridwar is micromolecular, rich in active hydrogen. Hydrogen, 9.27% of our body is hydrogen. Hydrogen, this one should be good, and it's a powerful antioxidant. When the lung cells, alveolar cell gets damaged because of the coronavirus, it loses the electron. Someone should donate the electron for the cell to become normal. The water is a powerful water. It can donate the electron. Otherwise, what is happening? They have to live all the time in the house or when this one with the oxygen cylinder by the side of them. So regeneration, the cell should be given the electron what it loses. So this one is not going. So see, another thing I want to tell. See, we are trying to manufacture the food. God has told us time, I'll keep all the nutrition, zinc, vitamin C, everything. But in 15 days, we are trying to manufacture the tomato, which it looks very big, but there's no nutrition inside. If you go to America, when I went to my daughter's house, each onion is just like a coconut. We think, oh, this onion is very nice, but there's nothing inside. There's no vitamin, nothing. So that's the reason eating good nutrition with good nutritious food is very, very important. See, another for immune system weak is our pesticides. See, without our knowledge, we are putting, see, in olden days, we used to get worms for the rice, dal, and everything. We used to clean. Now, they put boric acid to your dal, with everything. It will not go even if you wash. So if you wash in the micromolecular water, if you wash the dal, it becomes like a mango juice. So without our knowledge, we are taking a lot of pesticides and fertilizers. This is also one of the reasons why of late our immune system is getting spoiled. So in the olden days, we used to live long and living long, dying short in olden days. Now living short and dying long is the present type of living. So that is the reason giving more importance to nutrition is very, very important to fight against corona. So this I cannot speak now. So this is what I tell when you are having COVID infection. don't get scared. Mentally, don't become weak. There is a doctor inside your body. Take care of him. Give good nutrition. Give good water. I will tell you what to do. If you keep him happy, this virus will be there in your body for about 10 or 15 days. You make your internal doctor to fight with him. And isolation only will become all right. If the internal doctor becomes weak, then the complication starts, the pulse oxygen starts, then admission, all those things will start. So about the pulse oximeter, a person who is having home isolation should always have a pulse oximeter. Pulse oximeter will give two readings. One
Well, looks like we lost Dr. Chandrasekhar over there. We will move on to the next presentation. The next presentation is from Dr. Ajay Manikam.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. So after a very long discussion about the nutrition during COVID, I'm here to talk something about the black fungus, which is recently getting much worse. As days are progressing, we are getting to see lots of cases of this black fungus. We will see something about this black fungus today. So the common people must be having lots of questions in their mind. So what is a black fungus? How many cases are reported in or something? Is there a possibility that we are able to be getting infected by this disease? Is this a life-threatening one? How come we can reduce risk of getting this infection? So we will be discussing one by one all these questions. So number one. So the Center for Disease Control and Prevention of America describes mucormycosis as something rare fungal infection in the environment, particularly in soil, wet surfaces, and decaying organic matter such as leaves, composite piles, animal dung, etc. So it is a kind of fungus which lives in soil and some of the decaying organic matter. So when this spore, fungal spore, is accidentally getting inhaled by our nostril, and if it is entering into our body, there are chances that this might affect our body. But usually this fungus doesn't affect everyone. It is usually affecting the people whose immunity is very much down. When their immunity level is down, this fungus will overtake and this fungus will invade the tissue and it will cause infection. So there are lots of types of black fungus. These funguses are maybe sinonasal, it could be orbital, it could be rhinocerebral. Sinonasal is that one which is occupying only affecting our eyes, rhinocerebral, which is affecting our nose as well as brain, lungs, which will be affecting our lungs, cutaneous, which will be affecting our skin, and gastrointestinal system, which will be affecting our gastrointestinal system. So to answer the question number two, how many cases are reported in India? So in the pre-COVID era, before the 2019, this was a very rare infection. Maybe we will be seeing one case in 6 months. But during the first wave of corona, we had few cases reported across the country. But in second wave, it's really bad because 9 states are reporting this classical black fungus cases, such as New Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. So the question number 3, who are getting these black fungus? So not all people who are suffering from COVID or all people who are recovered from COVID are getting this disease. ICMR, the Indian Council of Medical Research, says some people are at increased risk of getting this infection. Number 1, those who are using steroids. We very well know steroids are used in the treatment of COVID-19 disease, but we very clearly know that the risks of steroids is completely very, very lesser compared to its benefits. So benefits of steroids is more compared to its risk. So it is definitely necessary to take steroids to avoid lower respiratory tract associated complications in this COVID situation. But When the steroids are used, the steroids also have a certain side effect. One important side effect is it may bring down the immune system of the patient. This is number one, which is being quoted. Number two, person who are on prolonged stay in hospital ICU, they will be getting oxygen, and this high flow oxygen, there are certain papers saying that humidifiers used in the high flow oxygen may act as a source of this fungal spore to grow, and this may add up the risk of developing this black fungus infection. Number three, it is the patient who are having diabetes and their glucose level is not under control. They are at the risk of developing this black fungus infection. Number four, people who are on cancer treatment, their immunity will be already down. The patient who are on transplant, such as kidney transplant or bone marrow transplants like that, their immunity will be down and they are also at higher. What this mold actually does when it enters the body? So in this photo you are seeing, right, this is your nose, this is your eyes, and this is your brain. So once it enters the nose, it can easily affect this part which is called as the sinus, this part which is called as the eyes, and this part which is called as the brain. So it is very closer to these structures. So once this mold enters, it is a very invading fungus, so that it will easily infect all the tissues which are nearby. So it keeps invading, and it invades the upper alveolus, which is here exactly, and it invades the eye, it invades the brain, and once it invades the brain, it may go in for sepsis and it may cause death. So question number 4, is this a life-threatening condition? To answer this question, it's really yes, it is a life-threatening condition. The mortality associated with black fungus infection is around 54%. That is, if 2 patients are getting infected, 1 may die. That is a very bad scenario. But one important thing is, if we are diagnosing it earlier, we can treat the patient in a much better manner. We can treat the patient in a much better manner. Okay. So what are all the warning symptoms of this disease? The warning symptoms are usually pain around the eyes, facial swelling, which is progressing very fast, nasal sinus congestion, toothache, loosening of tooth, double vision. So this is a classical case of black fungus, which we are seeing in our OPD. So this side you can see, this side eye is completely involved by the disease. This eye is completely gone. He is not able to see through this eye. It is also affecting the upper alveolus. You can see, right? This is the upper part of the alveolus. With the upper alveolus, you can see a blackish tissue inside. So it is all invading and invading. So this is really a bad disease. So how to reduce the risk of acquiring this black fungus? So ICMR, Indian Council of, are all the things we can do. It guides us what we have to do. Number 1, first thing is we have to control the level of blood glucose. The blood glucose in our body should be really in a controlled manner. Diabetic patients, especially post-COVID treatment, after getting recovered from the COVID, they should not feel relieved and they should increase their glycemic index. It has to be kept in a very controlled limit, because hyperglycemia causes your immune suppression and then it will result in all the risks of getting black fungus infection. Number 2, when you are in, this is a thing that particularly hospitals have to take care. The humidifiers used in oxygen therapy should be using a clean sterile water. Number 3, when we are using steroids and antibiotics, it has to be used judiciously and it has to be used with a proper medical guidance and strict physician supervision. Some people are directly downloading it from the internet, and they are just like that. They're taking the drugs and they are having no physician supervision, which is really dangerous. So there are these videos which are very viral in YouTube nowadays. People are taking cow dung bath, especially in Gujarat, parts of Karnataka. This is very unhygienic and unproven treatment. So ICMR clearly says experimenting this unhygienic, unproven treatment may not prevent COVID-19 or mucormycosis. Instead, when you are very closely going into soil particles and decaying organic matter like this, you are at the risk of developing black fungus infection. So these things should never be practiced. So can we protect ourselves from this black fungus? Definitely yes. So people who are recovering or battling COVID, they can easily get protected by this disease, because these things are repeated for the past 2 years by the government. Yes, we have to wear a mask. According to the recent CDC guidelines, we have to wear a surgical mask inside and then a cloth mask outside, which prevents around 86% of people acquiring this spores. Number 2, when you are a person involving agricultural activity or contact with soil, you have to be in a full suit like this. You have to put a full trouser, you have to put a mask, you have to put an eye cover, you have to wear a glove, you have to be on shoes. But instead, if you are a diabetic patient, it is better to avoid going into gardening or farm work. So once you avoid these activities, getting contact with soil is very much decreased, so that your risk of getting this black fungus is also getting decreased. Number 3, personal cleanliness is very important. So once you're going outside and coming back, it is better to take a thorough scrub. So these are all the things which we can easily do to prevent acquiring this sporal fungal infection. So can we protect ourselves? So why to get infected with this deadly combo? Both the COVID as well as this black fungus. Both, there is a very good mantra: stay home, stay safe. This will be very, very easier for us to do rather than getting the infection and looking for hospital beds. So there is a hope, new hope that is being arised. Get vaccinated, because whatever may be the vaccine, Covaxin, Covishield or Sputnik, each vaccine is proved to be equally effective and equally good, and it is the only hope against corona nowadays. So whenever possible, get vaccinated. That is the very important and the main thing that we have to do in this COVID time. So after doing all these precautions and measures, still you are getting black fungus. Treating these patients are really quite challenging. Early the diagnosis, better the result. So this is one of our patients. He came with post-COVID 3rd month, he developed mucormycosis. Unfortunately, we need to remove his eyeball. He is having no eyeball and his upper alveolus was completely removed. Still he is alive and he is under our regular follow-up. See, the treatment of mucormycosis is really terrible. So at times we need to remove the eyeball, we need to remove the upper alveolus completely. That is really, really bad for the patient as well as the treating doctor. But in order to save the life, the doctor has to do such things. So better stay home, stay safe, better keep your things in control. That will pave way for defeating this black fungus infection. So what to do? Whenever you're having alarming symptoms during COVID treatment or post-COVID treatment, consult an ENT surgeon immediately. The consultation of ENT surgeon is very, very, very mandatory. So following this antifungal surgery, it doesn't end there. You have to put the patient on antifungal therapy, which is a drug which costs around 4,000 rupees a vial, which has to be given for 4 to 8 weeks. Think about it. Think about the money you're going to spend on this drug. It's really, really troublesome. So hence, it is always better to keep your glycemic control, keep your things under control, and better get vaccinated at the earliest in order to prevent this deadly combo. So thank you so much. This was a time given for me. I'll be happy to answer your questions at the end of the session. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Rajan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ajay. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Right. So we'll move on. And now that we are clear about several aspects of this virus, which is no more new, the isolation effects, the mental health, and how the emotional health is important for to recover quickly. To share the expert advice on this topic, we would like to invite the counseling psychologist at Fortis Hospital, Ms. Samantha. Samantha, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Raj. So firstly, I'm thankful for being here. We get to know about, the increasing number of cases, or somebody around us is positive, or, we have to be the caretakers for them, or we ourselves have been tested positive. Our first natural response to these stressors is anxiety. Right? So what is anxiety? Anxiety is the natural response to stress, as I mentioned, and we can experience various symptoms. Like it could be physical symptoms like sweating, palpitations, frequent urination, and all these other symptoms. And then emotionally, we also have restlessness. We are unable to concentrate, our memory is poor, and all these things, right? And also coming, so I would like y'all to understand that panicking and feeling anxious is not the best, because um, your problem solving skills is what is important, right? If you just sit and panic, you are just going to not be able to rationalize what you're supposed to do, what are the remedies that you're supposed to take, or what is the precaution, the treatment. This will hamper all these other aspects, right? So I'm so sorry. Yeah. So coming back to speaking about, we also experience a lot of distress during these times. So how do we identify that we are distressed? How do we know that we are experiencing some of these symptoms? So understanding these signs of distress, emotional distress, is important. So the signs of emotional distress is that you are feeling overwhelmed, you are unable to make your best decisions. Again, your memory is hampered. You might be feeling fatigued very easily. Then apart from that, you might be having sleep disturbances. You might either be sleeping more or you might be sleeping less. Same goes with your appetite. It might be increased or reduced. This could also be because of the anxiety, right? Some of them eat a lot when they're anxious or stressed. Some of them eat very less. Some of them heal better when they sleep. Some of them cannot sleep when they're anxious. So all these things are interrelated, right? And also another important point to understand if you are distressed or not is trying to use substances to feel better. So if you are depending on all these things, then that is a sign for you. That is a red flag for you, right? So moving on to another thing, how to process diagnosis with evidence-based resources, right? So we hear a lot about, okay, what are we supposed to do when we get COVID? What are we not supposed to do? As the doctors before me spoke about, following evidence-based remedies, following evidence-based treatment plans. But we hear, like how Sir mentioned about cow dung. So we just hear word of mouth, or their own experiences, how to increase immunity, how to increase, how to fight the virus for that matter, how to um, um, isolate yourself, and everybody has their own suggestions, but what is it that you are actually supposed to follow? This is where you need to find the right resources, the verified resources, so that one, your anxiety reduces. So you know what you're doing, you know that, okay, whatever I'm doing is right, right? And you also know that, okay, you have to first visit websites like WHO or the government portals to understand the verified news. Try to cut down your what do you say, news input. You could be getting it from WhatsApp, you could be getting it from your other social media platforms, or word of mouth for that matter, right? So first, before you practice that or before you follow it, try and verify that news and see how legit it is. Because if it doesn't work, you might feel anxious. If it it might worsen your situation, for all we know. To avoid that, it's best to follow a physician. If not, if you still doubt all these other platforms, always consult a doctor, right? So that you can discuss with them what is the right precaution, or what is the right process that you're supposed to be following. Okay. And apart from this, what else? Yeah, for example, you have to use these proven scientific methods, like proning, right? That is a verified, what do you say? It's proven, right, that it increases oxygen. It's just not like, okay, somebody said it might work. And also, you know, taking steam or masking for that matter. These are all, what do you say, researched with a lot of people and for a lot of years. So we need to follow these things, right? Another thing is the right support, limiting misinformation. Again, try to digital detox, okay? Try to avoid social media or using your phone or your computers for at least a few hours a day. And even if you are, so, you know, a lot of people are working from home. A lot of us are, you know, isolated. So our only source is, what do you say? Our phones or our laptops, right? Or the TV for that matter. So how do we do that? How do we go about it? Try to limit your sources. Try to like not even if you get these WhatsApp messages, even if you you know, see it on social media, try not to spend time on it, right? And even on the news, try, because like, you know, a lot of it is propaganda, a lot of it is just rumors. And then try to like only, you know, finish up your work and not spend excessive hours on your screen. Okay, coming back to those, concentrating on those who are already isolated, who are you know, maybe it could be in the hospital, it could be at home, especially for home. How do you create a healthy routine? And why should you do it? Creating a healthy routine reduces anxiety, takes away that mundaneness, that you know, unstructured routine to your life, right? That you're like, okay, I'm not being productive, right? So this is something like you can do to avoid feeling this way, that okay, my life is on the right track. I know I'm isolated. I know I am, you know, away from my normal routine, but I'm still functioning. Okay, that is important. Feeling that is important. You shouldn't feel dysfunctional. You shouldn't feel, you know, you shouldn't give in to these symptoms. Okay, so how can you do this? Everybody has a different routine. Everybody has a different thing that they follow or they practice or that they do throughout the day, right? So find a routine that is personal to you. Personalize your routine. You don't have to follow somebody else's routine. You know, that might be difficult for you, or you know, you don't have to download a schedule online. Make your own routine. Give time for the things that you like and enjoy. Okay, it could be even watching TV. As I mentioned, you have to limit it. I do not mean like, you know, don't watch TV at all or don't watch movies at all, right? So do things that you enjoy. You know, you can pick up a hobby or learn something that you always wanted to. You know, if you're like into music, you know, listen to something calm and soothing, something that does not have very high pitched voices or you know, the music also has to be soothing, something that is not very lyrical, I would say, because that could also again you know, give you a mix emotions. Like it could give you a roller coaster of emotions, which we're trying to avoid, right? You want to feel better and not worse. So that is something that I would suggest. And apart from that, what else? Yes, add to your existing habits, right? So there are, like, we already have so many good habits. So try and add to these good habits. Like, what else can you inculcate in your routine? What else can you how can you accentuate your life by adding these routines? Okay. And apart from that, if you're unable to do certain things, right? So maybe you are not able to be productive today. Okay, for example, like it happens to all of us. Some days we feel low, some days we feel better. So on the days that we feel low, we become dysfunctional. We just want to be in bed all day, maybe, or you know, not work. So at times like these, try not to beat yourself up, because again, you're demotivating yourself, right? You're the one who's there for you at all times, so you have to be at your best, whether physically, mentally. And it's not a pressure that you have to be, but some days it's okay to feel low. It's okay to feel like, okay, you know, I'm not going anywhere. Look at it in an optimistic manner and use this as a cue for you to, okay, I get a day for resting. You know, let me take this day off to relax and rejuvenate, instead of, you know, panicking that, okay, you know, I'm not getting work done, right? So you can do that. And also, what else? Reward yourself. As I mentioned, that for doing anything, right? For maybe, you know, you can reward yourself, maybe an hour of social media. It has to be unmaterialistic things. Okay. Coming to the next point is finding ways to reach out to emotional support systems. So here I stress so much upon having good social support, a good social network. A social network is nothing but surrounding yourself around people who add to your life, who motivate you, who you know, are there for you, emotionally available for you. So every time you feel low, maybe you can, you know, contact it, and it can comprise of your family members, it can comprise of your friends, your colleagues, your mentors, for that matter, you know, anybody in your work circle. It could comprise of anybody for that matter, and it can be personal to you. It doesn't have to be, okay, it has to be your mentor, or it has to be somebody else, right? And try and connect with these people, talk to these people, so that you know, you feel emotionally connected, and you don't feel you guys are only physically isolated, right? Not emotionally isolated. So you need to remember this point. Okay. And again, also it helps in understanding that they're only physical. Oh yeah, this I already mentioned. Try to, okay, there is something, you know, you have a doubt. It could be a psychologist, it could be a mental health professional, for that matter. You think that, okay, you're still not able to get a grip on your emotions, get a grip on your life, and you feel like, okay, you know, everything is spiraling, it's on a downward spiral. Then I would suggest you to talk to a professional, right? And also focus on what you can control over what you can't control. Internal locus of control. Internal locus of control is nothing but, you know, certain things that we have under our control. Like, for example, we can mask, we can follow social distancing, maintain social distancing, we can sanitize ourselves, we can stay home. These are some things that we can control, right? But there are some things that we can't control, that isn't in our hands. For instance, the number of cases that are increasing, we do not have, like, personally speaking, I do not have a control over that, right? Or I do not have control over the number of deaths that are happening, or I do not have control over somebody else's, what do you say, physical health, right? So we need to understand that that is not in my limits. I cannot do anything about it, and that shouldn't stress me out, because what I can do, I will do it, right? Even like taking you guys as an example, for the ones who are isolated and, you know, under treatment, you know that you're doing everything that you can. That is, you've been prescribed certain medications, you're taking those medications, right? You're eating healthy, you're following all the you're following a diet that, like, Dr. Chandrasekhar mentioned. So you're doing all these things, but can you speed up your treatment process? No, right? You can't do that. You have to wait. You have to give it that time for your body to recover, your body to rejuvenate, and feel better, right? You can't hurry, you can't rush. So doing that also is going to cause anxiety. So it's better to be able to be calm, be composed, and trust the process. Trust the process is what I would say. Like you're doing everything that you can, and there's nothing else in my hands, so I'll just wait. That's all we can do, right? Okay. The next one I would like to talk about is care for caregivers. So a lot of us might be around people who are positive, who are in isolation. Probably we need to take care of them. We need to cook for them. We need to, take them to the hospital. Probably so many things, right? So your mental health is also important. First, prioritize your health, because once you are healthy, once you are safe, is when you can take care of these people. I know that the ones who are positive, their health is really, really important, right now. But if you're not healthy, there's nobody to take care of them. So you need to prioritize yourself first, and then um, you know move on to them. Okay. And also try to avoid burnout is something where a process where you will be exhausted and get depersonalized very easily because of high levels of stress, right? You could be worried sick about your family member, or you could be worried sick about yourself. What if I contract the virus, right? What if I test positive because I am coming in close contact? I have to go give food, or maybe they are isolated, but still it's in the air, and we know that. So that also can make us anxious. That also might make us scared. So try again. The best you can do is take whatever precaution that you have to take, right? And eat healthy, get enough sleep, because that is when your body will what do you say, renew all your, and resting well is important. Keeping your mental health up to the mark is also important, right? You cannot be depressed. That can also be a catalyst for the virus. Your mental health, your poor mental health, I would say. And what else emotional well-being. I would like to talk about emotional well-being. It's I think I just spoke about a few points. Even what do you say, even once again, even having good mental health, right? Not stressing too much. Even those who are already having mental health issues, right? You have to be even more cautious. Try to keep up with your therapy sessions. Try to keep up with your medications. Try not to neglect yourself that way. And if you think that, okay, again, I would also mention this to the caregivers, that if you think that you're not able to handle it yourself despite all these other precautions, then I would suggest you to take help, because it is important at this time especially. Okay. And then yeah, anything else that I didn't mention? Yeah. Another point in anxiety that I forgot to mention is about the uncertainty, right? We are there's so much uncertainty around COVID. Like, what if I get it? Whether it's COVID, there's uncertainty towards the virus itself, the pandemic. There is uncertainty towards life. Like, what if the person who tested positive would die? Could be your family member, it could be you, right? That uncertainty is there. But again, as the doctors mentioned, there's nothing to panic if you are doing your bit, right? If you are taking good help, there's nothing to panic. Also, there's uncertainty with job. A lot of people are being fired. A lot of people are losing their jobs, right? And maybe there's uncertainty about economy also, as the financial aspect. A lot of people are only being paid 50% or less or whatever that is. So even that uncertainty is affecting our anxiety. And, we need to understand at this moment that having life itself is the biggest blessing that we can have. And then comes everything else. So if you look at being optimistic, I would stress so much upon optimism. Instead of thinking, what if this happens? Just think about, how can you build upon being grateful. Make gratitude list. You just have to mention a few things that you are grateful about. It could be your life, it could be your family, it could be a house that you can stay isolated in, or stay home in, or being in lockdown for that matter. So start small and then keep adding to that, right? Try to add things into that list that are not materialistic. So that way you are appreciating your life better. The quality of appreciation will be better. And also what do you say, you can make a lot of journals, like art journals, or you can also make a gratitude list, a gratitude journal, sorry. And apart from this, try to be optimistic. When I say optimistic, try to there's something called as the ABC model, right? The ABC model is action, behavior, and consequence. When there is an action is the event, that particular like for example testing positive, right? So instead of looking at it from a very what would your behavior be for that, for you testing positive? You could either panic, or you could think, okay, fine, I'm tested positive, I'm glad that I tested positive and was able to identify this early. Not that you're happy about, oh, I tested positive. That's not what I mean, right? So early detection. So you're glad that you were detected early, and now you can take the necessary precautions. But if you're just anxious, what would the consequence be, right? You're just panicking, you're not thinking straight, you won't follow the precautions properly because your mind is preoccupied with, oh, I turned positive, what will I do? You think about impending doom, or you even fear life. You fear that you might die, or you might fear about spreading it to the other members of the family and things like that. So this is where you have to take care of the basic things. Again, I would mention masking, social isolation, social distancing, and all these things, right? So that's all from my end. If you have any doubts, please put it in the comment section so that I may answer it. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. That was quite motivating. Right. So let's move to the question and answer session. We have some very interesting questions from the audience. Let's pose these questions to our experts and hear from them. And I request our speakers to kindly contribute. Let's take the first question. We have a very interesting question from Selva Pandi. It says, can we get new vaccination, that is the Sputnik, after having taken the second dose of either Covishield or Covaxin? If yes, how many days later? So
actually, once the vaccination schedule is over, but once you've taken whether Covaxin or Covishield, if you've taken this vaccine, both doses completed, then you're good for a year. You don't have to take another type of vaccine within the same year. Maybe next year, when the government announces that you need to take a booster vaccine the next year, maybe in 2022, then you can go opt for any vaccine, not only Sputnik, any vaccine you can take. There's also one more thing. If you've taken the first dose in one brand, you have to take the second dose in the same brand because the technology is slightly different.
Okay, thank you. Let's go for the next question. Again, it is from Selva Pandi. So he's asking, what about blood donation camp after vaccination?
Yes, you can donate blood, but Yeah, I'd like to answer that. Yes, you can donate blood after vaccination, but not immediately. Your body is protected after 14 days after the second dose of vaccination. So I suggest you take another 15 days gap. That is a month after the second dose of vaccination. You can start donating blood.
Okay, that's great. So we have a question from Ramakrishnan Natarajan. Says, when we are in COVID duty and in case we get fever in our quarantine period, what time is preferred to get a swab test? Is it
anytime after you get any kind of symptom? Yes, I understood the question. See, if you get a symptom, get tested immediately. It is not necessary to test after doing a COVID duty or after the end of your quarantine. But if you get any kind of diarrhea, even diarrhea can be a symptom, or sore throat, any kind of symptom appears, then that is a good time to take a swab and test for COVID-19.
Okay. And there's another question which says, what to do if a doctor is insisting on remdesivir injection and it's not available?
You don't have to really worry in such an instance. Please, if the doctor advises it, please try to procure the drug. But if you're not, remdesivir is not a life-saving drug, but it definitely helps to some extent. There are studies that prove that for a person whose natural fate is to get all right in 10 days, if you give him remdesivir, you'll be all right in 7 or 8 days. But if a person's fate is to die, remdesivir will not help, but steroids will help. So you can tell the doctor, sir, please treat them with whatever is available. I'll try my level best to get the remdesivir. But if I'm not able to get it, I don't have to worry. That's the information I know. You can just say that to the doctor.
Okay. So let's take the next question. So why there is a sudden gap between vaccination? The time gap between the vaccination for Covishield. Is it due to lack of stock, or is it fine to take after 3 months gap? This is from Kritika.
There are actually two reasons. One is a scientific reason. The scientific reason is that the first time when the vaccine was released, it was advised that you need to take the second vaccine in 4 weeks gap. But after that, we started gathering more data, and then we finally understood that a slightly longer gap will give you a better antibody response, and that's why they increased it from 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And now they're increasing because, as the person who's asking has doubted, the reason is also valid. Yes, the stock is not very much available. The logic behind this is to get the entire country or the maximum number of people vaccinated as early as possible. Even a single dose will offer some amount of protection. So it is better to have an entire population to get the first dose instead of having a selected population completing the 2 doses. So public health wise, that is a good move. But individual health, of course, single dose will help, but not as strong as getting the 2 doses completed. So the gap between vaccination ideally should not be more than 6 to 8 weeks. But due to constraints in the stock and everything, it can be increased. However, even if you take the second dose a little bit later, it will not go to waste. Definitely the effect will be there, but not as much stronger effect as the taking the vaccine between 6 to 8 weeks.
Question from Arjun. He says, a person recently lost the battle to COVID and his wife is quarantined alone. Rest of the family members like kids, in-laws are at home. How can they provide best emotional care to the lady under isolation, grieving her lost husband?
I think Samantha would be the right person to answer this question.
Yes.
It looks like Samantha is having some issues joining us. She's not here.
Later, can you move on to the next question, please?
Samantha,
sure,
Raj, Samantha is here.
Okay. Samantha, the question, I think this best suits you.
Please repeat the question, please.
I will. So the question is, a person recently lost the battle to COVID and his wife is quarantined alone. Rest of the family members like kids, in-laws are at home. How can they provide best emotional care to the lady under isolation who's grieving her lost husband? Sorry, Samantha, could you hear that?
I think Samantha is having some technical issues. So I'll answer the question in my with what relating to infection control and everything.
Understand what is her way of grieving. Everybody has a different way to grieve, right? So understand. Yeah, I could. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you were audible, Samantha. There was a small technical glitch in between, but you are audible now.
Oh, okay, that's great. That's great. Right. So I was saying, first you need to understand what is it that what are the emotions that the lady who is alone in isolation is experiencing. What does she have to say about the whole thing, right? And how much has it impacted her, the husband's death? First, if you understand these things, then it would be easy for you to provide help without understanding what is it that she needs. Do that. Then you also need to understand, you need to make sure that you inform her that you guys are there for her, right? Because she might be feeling really lonely right now. Maybe she might also be in denial for all you know, because that is the first stage of grieving. Yeah. So the first stage of grieving is denial, thinking that, okay, no, that person still, no, that person is still there. That person hasn't gone anywhere. So they might be experiencing all these things. So it's for you guys to sit down and talk to her regularly, maybe video calls. I know you might be right outside her door, but still, like, seeing is different from hearing, right? So she might only be able to hear you guys through the door. But that's where your job comes into the picture, and also understanding that yes, my family is there for me, because a lot of times they think that, okay, I'm in isolation, and she's already feeling bad about her husband passing away, so that also would make her think that, okay, there's nobody for me, and that's not what she should feel like, right? It could be any close family member, whether they're there in the house or not, even if they're away. Staying in touch with her and checking up on her and how is she feeling, and how is her mood, and again explaining. Sometimes they think that they want to act strong, they want to show that they are strong, then they might be strong, right? I do not deny that, but okay to let it out. It is okay. I know this is a vulnerable situation. I know that I have to be strong at this point in time because my family, I care about my family. Usually mothers, that's how their nature is. But you have to tell them that it's okay to let. So because repressing their emotions will affect their mental health in the long run. They can feel depressed, I don't know, 5 years down the line, where everything is going on fine in their life, but still they might have symptoms of depression, and then they don't know what is the reason. But it could be the reason could be that they had repressed emotions, feelings, whatever that is in the past, and that is impacting them now. So usually a current situation is a result of what we experienced many years ago. So that is where these emotions and not think about who is going to say what, who's going to think what, and it's okay to feel weak sometimes. They need to understand all these aspects. So yeah.
Thank you, Samantha. I think we'll take a couple of more questions and then we'll have to end this session because we have crossed our time. So we have a question from Avinash. It says, is it good to take vaccine for SLE patients? I'm not sure what SLE stands for, but I'm sure the technical term you experts will know. So one of you can please answer that.
Yes. See, SLEs is systemic. Yes, vaccines can definitely be taken. But before you take a vaccine, definitely consult with your physician that is already treating you for the disease. Please discuss with him and then take the vaccine.
Okay, that's great. So we have a question from Rekha Nair. It says, senior citizens who do gardening and make manures for plants, etc., should that be avoided considering the black fungus situation?
See, Dr. Ajay Manikam has clearly explained about mucormycosis. And I'd just like to say one thing before I ask Ajay Manikam to pitch in. As a microbiologist, this mucormycosis, this black fungus, this is literally everywhere, guys. See, you see a bread packet getting stale and you see some black dots, black fungus in that is mucor. In winter season or rainy season, your bathrooms get very wet and it's always wet there. You see some black dots on the wall, it is mucor. Mucor is everywhere. It is generally a very harmless commensal. Commensal means it is harmless existence. We get exposed to mucor fungus every single day, but we will not be infected because we all have a normal, healthy immune system. In extremely immunocompromised people who have very low immunity, this fungus can become pathogenic and affect them. As Ajay Manikam sir said, if one of the main modes of treatment for COVID-19 is steroids, and the use of steroids have to be properly moderated, and they have to start at the right time and end at the right time. When steroids are given prescribed without any kind of control, and the patients, listening to the media here and there, making up your own prescriptions and sometimes taking oral steroids, the patient might end up with mucormycosis because they have developed a very low immune system. I think Dr. Ajay Manikam can follow this.
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Hello. Okay. Yes, actually, yeah, as Diego sir said, it is basically the immune system which is responsible for this. But normal people usually don't get mucormycosis. Mucormycosis was not so frequent like this previously. Before 2019, we don't even see a single case of mucormycosis in 6 months. Maybe if we are in a government setup, we may see a single case in a month or one case in 2 months. Nowadays, it is very, very common. All because main treatment for this COVID is to be, we have to give steroids for the patient, and it is totally unavoidable because benefits of steroids is highly outweighed. So we have to give steroids for this patient, and it has to be under proper supervision. And talking about that manuring thing, if they are well-to-do and if there is no need for them to go and work in the field, it is better to avoid such things until these things are coming back to normal, rather than working at situations like this, pandemic situation. Like if they are well-to-do, they can very well avoid going outdoor, working in the farming field and everything, because as sir said, it is present everywhere. It is a spore. It is it is a microscopic organism. We will be not able to see it. So it is present everywhere. So better to avoid such works, such as gardening, cleaning their homes, etc., etc. It is better to take rest at this time rather than getting yourself exposed to those harmful species. Yes.
Thank you, doctor. So let's go to the next question. We have a question from Kritika who says, why breastfeeding mothers can't get vaccinated?
breastfeeding mothers can definitely get vaccinated. There is no logical standpoint to deny vaccination for breastfeeding mothers. But initially, they did not include the breastfeeding mothers and pregnant women to get vaccinated because they were not included in the initial study. They did not have enough data to say that it is 100% safe. Although even last year itself, when the vaccines got released, there were around 10,000 population with lactating mothers and pregnant mothers who were tested for the vaccines and did not have much of a side effect, except that same fever or a body pain for a day or two. So right now, the FOGC, that is the Federation of Gynecology and Obstetrics in India, they are recommending that even pregnant mothers and breastfeeding mothers can take the vaccine. So it is absolutely safe. Right now, there are no ICMR guidelines which say that lactating mothers and pregnant mothers can take vaccines. I think in a month or two, they'll release the guidelines that lactating mothers and pregnant mothers can take vaccines.
Okay, thank you. And we have a question from Usha Nandini. She says, my friend had fever and headache for past 4 days. When he tested for swab test, it was negative, but still he's having fever even after taking paracetamol. Is it necessary to take COVID test once again?
As I already told you during my presentation, COVID has mutated a lot, and some of the strains, they do not affect the lung. Some of the strains, they do not affect the throat. And some strains affect both, or some strains affect only the throat, and some strains affect only the lung. So probably in this case, he has an infection of the lung, and there is no inflammation or infection in the throat or the nose, so that when he has taken a swab test, it has turned out to be negative. But for him, blood test and also a CT scan will prove otherwise. If he has COVID, a CT scan will be showing that he has COVID. So he has to consult with the doctor again and request for a CT scan.
Okay. That's good. And we have Afreen Banu who's asking, if a person doesn't show any side effects after taking the vaccine, does that mean the vaccine didn't work?
Yes, the vaccine will definitely work. Having some side effects like fever or body pain does not mean that your immune system is working extra well. It's just we are all very unique individuals, and our body reacts to different things differently. So there's no need to worry about that. Vaccine effects are all the same. And each of us have different response. Some of us have a really good antibody response. Some of us have don't have that much of antibody response. But whatever it is, ultimately taking vaccine will definitely help. No matter what amount of antibody response you have, something is always better than nothing. Please take vaccine.
All right. So I think we'll take one last question, and this is for Dr. Chandrasekhar. We'd like to know, this is for all of us, how can they be safe? How can people be safe through lifestyle choices? And how is this going to change everybody's life?
Sir, it's very, I don't know, when was my internet was interrupted, sir? What stage? Could they see all my slides?
Yes, I think we completed all your slides and it was interrupted.
Slides were visible, sir. There was some problem with my internet.
You were
water.
At what time, what stage it was stopped?
When you were at the slide which shows natural flowing water and stagnant water.
Oh, most of the things I are not told. Okay, right. See, one thing again, everyone has got a doctor inside his body. His T cells and B cells. His name is immune system. So the raw material for that cell for our body, again, I'm repeating the same thing. Good nutrition, good water, and good cells to produce the antibodies. All these three things should go inside. Mitochondrial metabolism should take place. Pyruvic acid, lactic acid, everything, toxins are removed. If the toxins are removed, and the cell will do the function. See, if the immune system can do the function very well, what will happen? Antibody production is good. So if the antibody production is good, definitely we can fight. See, what we say, if you can reduce the viral overload. See, if the viral overload comes down much early, if you recognize much early in the stage, that cytokine storm or cytokine will not take place, he will not go for complications. Many of the people under home isolation only, they'll become all right. That is the reason lifestyle modification, taking good food, taking good control of diabetes, BP, or whatever this one is the best treatment to prevent or to go into the hospital, sir. nutrition and water plays a very important role.
Thank you, doctor. And one last thing, so you are a well-known cardiologist. Okay, so we'd like to know what are the precautionary measures that heart patients need to take in this kind of a scenario.
So we know they have got added problems, hypertension. They'll be taking so many drugs, anticoagulants, and all those things. See, we should. Very rarely, some people may have some. Keeping that problem in mind, we should not discourage people from taking a vaccine, sir. So taking vaccine is very important. We should not think of a rare complication, and that vaccination will give you definitely good protection. At the same time, taking nutrition and water, where the cardiac patient or a diabetic patient, where the immune system is weak, if you give more importance to nutrition and water at that time, definitely for about 14 or 15 days, if the immune system fights having diabetes, having hypertension, having heart attack at that time of corona infection, will definitely help him.
Thank you, doctor. So with this, I think we'll have to come to a close of this session, this program. I would like to thank everyone, our doctors, experts, and all the participants for taking your precious time and being a part of this very valid session. I know there are many questions and a lot of us are anxious and we have a lot of questions. We'll try to have another session soon so that it eases your mind and people are out of anxiety. So one thing that we learned now is that we should not be worrying about this virus. We should take precautionary measures and early signs. Today's time, and it was a pleasure hosting all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.